Colorism hurts us all. How we end the cycle of colorism. So, this topic is a little different from what we normally talk about on this channel. However, this does impact us in the workplace and outside of the workplace. So, periodically, I have conversations on this channel that impact us as a community, as Black people, and specifically as Black women. So, we're going to be talking about the issue of colorism. So we know that colorism can bring up a lot of issues for us. This may be a sensitive topic for some of us, so just be mindful of that as you come into this room. We're going to be respectful of one another as we are engaged in this conversation. And when we think about this topic, many of us talk about this topic, in our private conversations, but it's important for us to have open conversations about this because we have been talking about this issue for generations. And we need to be able to have open conversations about this issue so it doesn't keep dividing us, because when we're divided, we cannot come together as a people. So we're going to have an open conversation about the issue of colorism so that we can really identify what are the divisive issues that contribute to issues of colorism, and how do we address these divisive tactics so that we no longer fall into these traps that keep us divided as a Black community and for us as Black women. So again, thank you so much for watching today, and get ready for this riveting conversation. I'm excited to have Dr. Maya here with us today. If you don't know me already, I'm Dr. Kamani. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. I've been licensed for over 20 years. I'm also a toxic job survivor, but more importantly, I'm a toxic job liberator for Black women. I'm also the co-founder with Marissa Price of the Job Liberation Virtual Summit for Black Women. If you would like to purchase the replay of that, you can access that. Hey, Marissa, she just joined. If you would like to access the replay of the Job Liberation Virtual Summit, you can get the link to that in the description section of this video on YouTube. So I'm going to turn it over to my guest, Dr. Maya. She has her own YouTube channel, which she'll be telling us about. So Dr. Maya, can you please introduce yourself?
Of course, Dr. Kamani, that was a incredible introduction and really good, just soundbite for what this conversation is going to be about. So as mentioned, I am Dr. Maya. I have my own channel called Fly Like Me PhD, and I focus on helping Black women to move or to live abroad. This can be short-term stays, just taking a visit, or it can be long-term. I also want to say that I attended the Job Liberation Virtual Summit that Dr. Kamani is the co-founder of. Fantastic information below for you all to be able to purchase that replay, and just really nice to have a community where we were able to kind of talk about all of the issues we faced in the job market, in the jobs that we had, and really a way to remove ourselves from the toxic job. I love what you said, Dr. Kamani, about being a toxic job survivor. I am as well.
Yes. And unfortunately, so many of us as Black women are survivors of toxic jobs because of issues of racism and sexism, because we know that unfortunately, Black women were disproportionately exposed to these toxic work environments, again, because of issues of racism and sexism. So I want to give a little backstory about how this conversation came to be. So again, I normally talk about Black women in toxic jobs. But again, periodically, I talk about issues that impact us as a Black community and those issues that impact us specifically as Black women. So Dr. Maya and I were talking in general about just talking, and we were talking about issues of skin color came up. And I was like, wait, she said she did a whole dissertation on this topic. I was like, you did a dissertation on this? We need to talk about this on my channel, because this painful issue keeps coming up and we need to have open conversations about this. So this is how this conversation came up. And I was just telling Dr. Maya that she is actually inspiring me, that we're having a conversation about skin color, and this is something that she talked about in her dissertation. And she's inspiring me because I was like, you know what? I should talk about something on my dissertation too. And my dissertation was about a prejudgment process of social comparison jealousy among Black women. So I am inspired by Dr. Maya to start talking about my own dissertation. So hopefully down the line, I will start doing some content about social comparison jealousy among Black women. So hold me accountable to that, everyone, that down the line, I'll be talking about that as well. So Dr. Maya, Can we talk about colorism? So, when colorism comes up, when we talk about colorism, and when I say colorism hurts us all, what is that? What comes to your mind when I say that colorism hurts us all? Why do you what when I say colorism hurts us all? What are your thoughts about that? Why do you
Yeah,
think it hurts us
so
all?
first, I'll just take one step back to make sure that we all are on the same page around colorism and just define what colorism is. So,
Mhm,
colorism and racism are often confounded. People think that these two things are the same thing or one exists and the other does not. There is an overemphasis about racism. It is a topic that is often talked about, and that allows colorism to be hidden. But one thing that we say is that colorism is the daughter of racism. So you cannot have one without the other.
mhm,
And racism is going to be the discrimination of an entire group of people that is going to be based off of their region where they're from. So, where their ancestors are from. And that is where the discrimination comes from. But colorism is the preference for certain people within that racial group. So, where racism is the mistreatment of all people in a racial group, colorism is the preference for people that possess lighter skin tones in a particular racial group. So, people may have
mhm,
preferences within that racial group and treat people differently based off that rather than racism, which is mistreating all people. So, when you say that
mhm,
colorism hurts us all, 100% this is true. One
mhm,
injustice in one place is an injustice everywhere. So anyone that
mhm,
is facing an injustice means that we all are harmed by that injustice. So when it comes to
mhm,
colorism, even though we think that it is only harmful people to people of a darker skin tone because those are the people that are being discriminated against, it is also
mhm,
harmful when people of a lighter skin tone have preferences or face preferential treatment, receive privileges for being lighter than other people, because it is become something that infects the brains of these people to believe that they are better than other people or that they should receive preferential treatment because of their skin tone. So they receive privileges while other groups and other people are being excluded from those privileges and being mistreated for the same reason that they are preferred. So the way that this hurts us all is if we all are here to talk about the fact that racism is not okay and that no one should have to face racial discrimination, then how is it that we
mhm,
are okay with certain people in our group having preferences because they possess lighter skin tone while other people are being discriminated against? We can't believe the same things at the same time. You can't think that racism is not okay, but then be treating people better because of colorism, because that is a form of racism.
okay. And so, what are some of the ways that colorism might show up professionally and also personally? Because when I think about, like, even with my dissertation, one of the issues that I talked about or looked at was the issue of family socialization. And we know within Black families, we can range in skin color from very dark to very light, right? That's very common in our families. So within families, there's often even like a hierarchy within our families based upon skin color, which is very painful. So can we talk about ways that colorism can show up personally as well as professionally?
Yes, this is a great question because Dr. Kamani, actually, the first time that people learn about colorism is within the family unit. So, as you have mentioned, and there's research that shows there are 200 variations of skin tone among Black people. We can come in
Wow.
200 shades. We are the only group that comes in all of those shades. A lot of other
Mhm.
groups is just a few shades, but for us, there is a wide range of shades. And that is why you can describe Black people in so many different ways, right? Related to so many different colors because of the different shades that we come in. So within our families is actually when we first learn about colorism, not actually from the media or the society. As you already know, probably as a kid, we are not necessarily being as exposed or even understand what we're watching or listening to, but we know when our family is treating us differently
Right.
as babies, as young. You can know when you're being neglected. You can see when somebody's giving someone else attention, things like that. And
Mhm.
so within the family, these are when stereotypes come: the light skinned person, the dark skinned person. So, as you mentioned with dissertation, I did my dissertation on African American girls and how colorism impacted their academic outcomes. And one thing they said was that their mothers or their cousins would say, "You're the dark one of the family, you're the light one of the family. Why are you darker than your sister? Why does your sister look lighter?" Like, they were only in middle school, but they already were being socialized to understand that their skin tone meant something within family. And then also, as is historic for Black people to do, is to ridicule people. And so there can be mockeries that are made of people based on their skin tone within their own families.
Mhm.
People, obviously, again, referring to people as the darkest person or the lightest person, preferring a person for being lighter. Also within the family, sometimes they will give privileges, allow the lighter skinned person to go to school while the darker skinned person has to maybe like learn a trade or has to do unnecessary work. But it's because of that structure, that system, where we know that lighter skinned people have more opportunities than darker skinned people. So maybe sometimes in family, they perpetuate that. Why even send a darker skinned person to go to school if we know that there is a potential for them not to find employment like the lighter skinned person? And then when you talk about in the workplace, we have found that time and time again, positions of like secretary or being like a nurse's assistant, they tend to choose Black people in general for these types of jobs because they don't obviously want us to work jobs that are high paying. And they tend to go with people that are lighter skinned because they believe those people are more attractive. And like being a secretary, where you're the face of like the first person that a person sees when they're going to the organization, they want you to see a person that is attractive, which is a whole nother conversation for us to have based on attractiveness and jobs. And so that is a case that happens. And then we also find people that are of darker skin tone are least likely to have promotions and opportunities offered to them in the workplace. And then we also know that within the inception of HBCUs, most of the presidents were light skinned people holding those positions. They were not interested in dark skinned people being in those positions at all. Or when we see people in positions of power, a lot of time those people tend to be lighter skinned rather than to be darker skinned.
Mhm.
And darker skinned people tend to make the least amount of money at the job compared to lighter skinned people at the
Mhm.
same workplace.
Okay. So can we talk a little bit about what that might look like in terms of dynamics amongst Black people if that is the case, right? Or when that plays out. So how might that look like? So if certain Black people are treated a certain way in the workplace, how might that then impact the way Black people may interact with one another in the workplace? I'm thinking about issues of internalized oppression. I'm thinking about issues of perceiving one another as competition. I'm thinking about, comments about all skin folk and kinfolk. How might that look like, in terms of those dynamics in the workplace?
Yeah, so this is when it is like a divide and conquer situation. This is when people begin to be pit against each other.
Mhm.
This is when we can see actively that lighter skinned people are getting better treatment, or even that people are just not as hostile towards them. There's research that shows the darker your skin tone is, the more hostile the job environment is towards you. So even though the interactions between Black people sadly could be that they feel like they're in competition with one another, it might not actually be made up. It may be because they actually are putting people against each other, preferring other people based off skin tone. And the way that this has happened is when there was the inception of colorism related to slavery in the United States, it was because they felt that, or at that time, obviously, The slave masters had sexually exploited Black women to create mixed race children, and they felt that mixed race children were more intelligent, were more compassionate, were kinder than darker skinned people. And that continues today. So in the workplace, they're just more trusting of lighter skinned people. They feel like they're more knowledgeable. They feel like they have assimilated better, which was all set up from the beginning to lead them to this position. And then when we're in the workplace, we can see it's very hard just from the beginning. Even if we don't talk about colorism, Dr. Kamani, people are already feeling like there's a competition rather than there's like a connection and camaraderie amongst Black people in the workplace. And the fact that they tend to only have one position that they will allow Black people to be in, that is like a high paying or like a promotion. Like it's not like they allow like 15 Black people at once to have really great positions. Like they tend to, when it is a promotion, they're only looking for one. And so that can cause us to feel that we are in competition with each other. This can cause like secrecy. This can cause jealousy. And sometimes in the worst cases, in alignment with white people at the job rather than with Black people at the job.
And I saw a comment come in talking about relationships too, and romantic relationships. Can we talk about the issue of colorism in relation to romantic types of relationships as well?
So romance. Oh, romance. This one is one of the major issues related to colorism within the Black community, from my opinion, because I had already had the expectation that white people could not be trusted, that they were already going to see us in a way that they didn't feel like they wanted us to be in the job. But what is harmful to me is when, what you mentioned, all skin folk ain't kinfolk, when you have people within your community that are actively making comments, actively choosing to date certain people over other people, but they're not okay with racism, but they're okay with being a colorist, is horrific. And just so that we can have some examples, just in case y'all like, she made this up. Please see people like Kevin Hart. Please see people like Nick Cannon. Please see people like 50 Cent. Please see people like Neo. Please see people that have actively talked about Black women's features, actively talked about dark-skinned women not being attractive, actively talk about how they have a preference for lighter skin and how those are the people that they tend to date. They have talked about this in public about how they're not interested in dating dark-skinned Black women, and in some cases, Black women at all. And so please jump in.
No, I was just thinking about your dissertation because it was on Black girls, right? So can we talk about when Black girls see these things, hear these things, what does that say to them in terms of their own feelings about themselves and their own sense of desirability? Not that we are saying to Black girls that you only see your value in relation to men, right? We're not saying that. But what we're saying is, part of it is, how are they viewed by other people, right? And desirability might be part of it in terms of how they're viewed by other people. How might that influence how Black girls are seen, how they see themselves, and also Black women, right? So can we talk about how that impacts Black girls and Black women in terms of identity and self-esteem? And then, Dr. Maya, I want us to transition into that awesome, beautiful poem that you have.
Okay, so yes, I can do this. I have come to the right place to talk about this. So there is research that shows that rap lyrics, specifically that have been colorist and that have degraded dark-skinned Black women, have decreased the self-esteem and the self-confidence of Black girls and Black women actively. And the music continues to perpetuate colorism to this day. if you're interested in listening to the music today, it is still doing that. And that is harmful, actively harmful to Black women and Black girls. This is what has led so many of them to not feel comfortable within their skin. And when they become Black women, to want to alter that, right? To want to change the skin tone with skin bleaching, to want to change the features with plastic surgeries. And amongst Black people, the most common plastic surgery is a rhinoplasty, changing the shape of the nose. To change the hair texture, wanting to wear weaves and wigs all the time because people feel ashamed of their natural hair texture. All of this
Mhm.
is contributing to how people feel about themselves related to colorism. And I specifically have heard Black women talk about the fact that their partner has said that if they didn't wear a weave or if they didn't wear a wig, they would not find them attractive and they would not be interested in being with them. And a lot that I
Mm.
heard related to natural hair, that Black women do not want to go natural, is because they believe they will not be desirable by their partner or in the dating market. So there is a direct correlation of the comments that people
Mm.
make, even though they think that it's just a comment, it's just a preference.
Mhm.
What are you saying? It directly harms people, and they internalize colorism. And then, Dr. Kamani, when they change the way that they look, they receive flack for that. People are coming at them for changing their appearance, even though they were the ones that told them that their appearance was unacceptable.
Wow. Wow. So no, they can't win either way.
No.
Yeah. And you know what? You really bring up also the complexities that's involved. So it's not only skin color, but we're talking about features, physical features, and we're talking about hair texture as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So can it impact your identity and your self-esteem? So can we talk or can you transition, Dr. Maya? So I was watching Dr. Maya's YouTube channel and I was watching one of her videos and she did this poem and I thought it was so touching and so beautiful that I've asked her to recite this poem today. And it talks about colorism. So she's going to share her poem with us. And I just want to tell you, Dr. Maya, that sometimes I listen to your videos which are such a really a refreshing departure from so much of the chaos and confusion going on right now. And I just appreciate just listening to your calming voice. So I just want to say thank you for your videos. So
Thank you.
your poem, yes.
Thank you, Dr. Kamani. Okay, per Dr. Kamani's request, this has now become a spoken word, and I will read to you all my poem about colorism. It is called Dating While Dark. For 12 years, I thought I was a brown skinned girl until my brother's friend Dennis altered my world. He called me dark skinned, which I thought was strange because right in that moment, my skin tone changed. Medium brown had become dark brown. Now I was the darkest girl in town. In college at age 18, the students described me as dark skin, weave, and glasses in almost every class. Damn, you ugly, my neighbor James proclaimed. I avoided mirrors for a year out of sheer shame. Feeling rejected by the Black community, white guys saw me as an opportunity. I was their 20-year-old fetish and token, which left me hurt and super broken. At 24, a Black student, Joe, took a risk and publicly dated me. He punched, kicked, grabbed, and yelled so that I would be afraid to flee. Leaving him allowed me to later find peace with Shane. He was so kind and understanding that I felt no pain. Thank you for choosing a dark skinned woman to date, I stated. His smile beamed. He was so sincere and elated. Then I woke up and I realized I needed to heal. Stop seeking male approval, reflect, and sit still. Dark skin, natural hair, and athletic built new page. That's how I describe myself at 31 years of age. No men needed. Alone I stand with my head held high. Dark skin as radiant and vibrant as the night sky. An intelligent queer queen who has a story to tell, relating to my sisters who know the pain of colorism all too well.
Wow, that's powerful. So Dr. Maya, can you share what inspired you to write that?
So, one of the things around colorism healing is to get it out, to make sure that your experience is like validated, affirmed, and heard. And so there was a colorism contest that was worldwide where we could submit poems, stories related to colorism that we experienced. And so I did that. During my PhD program, I submitted that poem about my own experiences so that I could heal from it.
Wow. Okay. And what inspired your dissertation?
Okay, so I the first moment that I realized what colorism was at the age of 12 when my neighbor told me that I was dark skinned. And my whole life, I was like, I thought I was medium skin tone. This is like what the poem is about. And so after that, going back to what some of the comments are about with dating in middle school, I was called ugly all of the time. Every time I was interested in somebody, they were like, you're too ugly for me to like be
Mm.
interested in. I'm surprised that you would even think that you have a chance. I also noticed that light skinned girls were the preference, and specifically light skinned girls that had long hair in middle school. In college, again, like the poem said, just really heard a lot of negative things about the way that I looked. And so it really set me up the whole life to feel very insecure about skin tone. I've also been told in just Dr. Kamani just like 2 weeks ago that my hair is ugly. And I've been told this my whole life, like the beauty salon, they're like, why is she coming in here with this? We're going to be here all day. Like, it's just been a constant thing. And so when I got to my PhD program, I was like, I think I really do need a lot of healing from this because I have internalized everything. I believe
Mhm.
everything. Like I told you, when I said I avoided the mirror for a year, that is a true story. I had, like
Wow.
the joke of like, if you're ugly, you'll break a mirror. And I was a kid. So I thought that was like a real thing. And so I just
Mm.
have realized this is like a lifelong battle for me, specifically
Mhm.
deciding to wear natural hair as a Black woman, deciding to not like assimilate to what the society wants is a radical act that will cause you to have to fight against backlash for the whole life. And so I'm like, it's just better to go ahead and combat that now than to continue to internalize all the things. So I felt it was a really good time nor a PhD to address it. And I also wanted to give freedom and to give voice to younger girls, that younger girl that was me who said those things. And my family is like, just ignore them. They don't know. You're beautiful. But like, if you hear messages to the contrary all the time, how are you expected to believe that you're beautiful as a kid? So I really wanted to give that voice to those young girls. Like, I wish someone had given that voice to me.
Yeah, so it was coming from a position of pain and your desire to heal, right? And so you were going through your own process, and what you're saying is this is the ongoing process for you, and that you still have to counter negative backlash, and you still have to remind yourself of this ongoing. And so you wanted girls to be able to say and to challenge that, and you wish that you had that growing up as well, right? So this is kind of like a love letter to Black girls, right? And so can you share with us what were some of the key findings that you learned from your dissertation? And what were some of the things maybe that you learned from your dissertation that we can help Black girls in terms of challenging, these negative messages about colorism? What are some of the ways we can help Black girls, and then we can transition to Black women, and then we can transition to, as a community, how can we address these issues of colorism?
Yeah,
And in fact, that's so beautiful. The question came in from the awkward Black nomad. What can we better? What can we do better to counteract colorism from Black girls in our community? Like minds, exactly.
like
Yes,
mine, like
thank you.
mine. Yeah, so I would say that one of the findings, the main findings, is that Black girls do experience colorism. There is this idea that they're kids. Why are we telling them about racism? Like, they had already experienced, they had already internalized, they already recognized it. That is the main finding. Okay, that
Mhm.
colorism, the understanding of colorism begins in kindergarten. That's where we can
Wow.
first see that they
Mm,
understand, maybe not to the level that we understand, but they can at least recognize the differences between skin tone as early as kindergarten.
mm,
Another finding was that the family perpetuated colorism. The
mhm,
family contributed to the negative ways that Black girls felt about themselves.
mhm, mhm.
Another finding was that Black girls felt like they had to deal with it on their own. So they felt like they had to hype themselves up or be resilient on their own to combat colorism,
Hmm.
or that they felt the desire to help others when colorism was occurring because adults were not helpful.
Wow.
Yeah,
So a very lonely experience.
very lonely. Very
Mm,
lonely experience. Yes.
okay.
And even though our focus was on colorism,
Mhm,
Black girls still understood racism as well. They felt that there was both colorism and racism happening in the school environment, in their families, in relationships. They still felt that. And I will say this piece because I'm making my Black girls seem like they were always the victim, and they were not. I gotta tell you how they perpetuated. There were some that was like, I would never date a dark skinned dude. I do not find them attractive. And I was like, whoa,
Oh,
powerful.
so you saw evidence of their own internalized oppression.
Yes. So there was evidence that they had internalized it as well. And there were some
Mhm,
that preferred being light skinned. They felt like they, quote unquote, looked better that way, or that people criticize them a lot when they like got a tan, like maybe have been in the sun, and so they were like, I just want to be my normal color because
mm,
people prefer that.
mm. Okay, okay. So what are some of the ways that we can support Black girls in relation to colorism healing, as you said?
Yeah, this is great. So, number one is to believe them. We don't need to question. We don't need to argue. Some of the families are like, Black is beautiful. Don't even worry about it. No, we need to worry about it because even though that is true, it can also be true that people are saying harmful things. So, to just like dismiss it, minimize it is not helpful. We need validation.
Mhm,
We need affirmation that what is happening
mhm,
is not made up, or people will internalize it. See my situation. So,
mm,
we got to affirm, we have to validate. Another thing is that we can take a break from watching shows that will perpetuate colorism, which is most shows. Most shows, particularly Black shows, normally have like a light skinned lead or like a light skinned person that is like the desirable person, the person, the love interest. That's what I'm trying to say. The love interest, not helpful. So, watching.
I'm like, what show is not what show do we watch? I'm like running through my head like, what show does not have that?
I appreciate you for saying this so much because I'm
I'm
like,
thinking in my
turn
head right
off the TV.
now. Which ones?
Which one does it? Thank you so
Yeah,
much. Thank you for saying that.
yeah,
And sadly, Dr. Kamani, Black people are the highest consumers of television. And you just said to us which one is not perpetuating colorism. So we gonna internalize something.
yeah, yeah.
There we
Well, can
go.
I go back to something, Dr. Maya? Because that comment really struck me where you said that I think sometimes people try really hard to support Black girls, but sometimes what I think might be happening is that they may invalidate. So they may say, you're beautiful the way you are. Ignore what everybody else is saying. You're the most beautiful girl in the world. Just ignore people, blah, blah. But that's not helpful because you're not understanding their reality and how painful it is for them to be seen in a very negative light and that they know that they're being compared to a standard that they are not, right? So, what are some of the ways that might be a more constructive way to affirm and validate? Can you give us some examples of what that might sound like?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So, one of the things that I will say is that sometimes the people that are saying these things are invalidating is often because they haven't experienced it. You know, when you tend to
Mm,
experience something, it's real easy to validate. You're like, exactly, that happened to me. And here's another example. But when you don't experience, it's like, I don't know what you're talking about. So, number one
mm,
is just be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Like, it's just going to be an uncomfortable conversation, and
okay.
just to say black is beautiful and move on does not stop what will happen. So
Right.
number one, validation. I hear what you say, what you are saying. That sounds really difficult. How did
Mm,
that make you feel? Are you okay? What are you
mm,
needing in this moment to feel better about that? I recognize what
okay.
you're saying. Some additional examples so that you know that you are not alone is XYZ that I have witnessed, or that, has happened to me, or that has happened to someone that I know. Would it be
Mhm,
more helpful for you if you had conversations with a therapist related to this issue? Would it be helpful for you to have a conversation with an older person that maybe looks like you, to be able to validate your feelings? What is it that you're needing to feel better about this? Because it is not your fault, it is not your
mm,
problem, but we can recognize that it might continue to happen because the world has been indoctrinated to understand that they want to devalue the features that you have.
good. I love that. Okay, good. So that's for Black girls. What about for Black women? What are some of the ways that colorism healing looks like for Black women?
Okay, so for Black women, what we can do is, again, to get in conversation with other Black women. So you mentioned my channel. One thing that I'm still trying to heal from is texturism. Particular is the preference of certain hair textures, specifically those that are looser or closer to whiteness. And so
Mhm,
I am having a conversation with a group of women that have dealt with texturism in their lives so that we can validate each other's experiences instead of, like what you said, Dr. Kamani. I get this a lot. Your hair is beautiful. Don't worry about it. Blah, blah, blah. I just want to hear from other people that have had to deal with this and how they have had to combat it, and how they are trying to unlearn what people have said to them. Another thing is therapy is super helpful. I have a therapist. We have gone over this a lot. We have had conversations a lot. She also looks very similar to me. So it's very helpful to see another Black woman that has had to deal with similar situations, to talk about this, to give voice to it, to validate it.
mhm,
Another thing is like really working on yourself, doing the education yourself. I've read a lot of books, as you all can see with the statistics on colorism, and it really helped me to be like, okay, it is not just my issue, it is a global issue. There are Black people all across the world facing this issue. It is not personal
mhm,
to me, it is about
mhm,
Blackness, and that is what the issue is. And then really
mhm,
having people in your life, if you're going to have this conversation with them, that believe you, that are going to listen to that and not going to invalidate what you're saying. All of that
mhm,
helps to get it out. We just need to get it out. We need to talk about it. And most importantly, Dr. Kamani, if you can find an advocate, even better, so that when people do say hurtful things, which they will, someone steps in,
mhm,
interjects, and you don't have to take it on yourself like those Black girls I told you did. It's like
mm,
exhausting to constantly have to do that all of the time. And so
mhm,
having an
mhm,
advocate can really help in those situations. So the time that this person a few weeks ago called my hair ugly, the person stepped in and was like, I think that you prefer Eurocentric standards of beauty, and shut the person completely down because they didn't have anything they could say against it. It was said, it was the truth, and that was the
Dr.
end.
Maya, what can you tell us just a little bit, what was the scenario? Because that sounds ridiculous.
The scenario. Okay. So the scenario was I had gone swimming and I had come out
Okay.
of the pool and my hair was wet and it wasn't like laying flat. I think like
Mhm,
most white people's hair lays after the hair has been wet. It was like spiky or sticking up in some ways. And they were like, oh my gosh, your hair is so ugly like that.
Was this another Black person?
This is another Black person. This person is biracial. Does that help? Half Black, half white.
Wow. Okay. And they said
So
that to you.
they said that to me.
And
But
this is an adult.
just so that you know, this person is a child, a teenager.
Oh,
A
okay. Okay.
teenager
Okay. I'll give
that
them a
was
little
there.
bit. A little bit.
Okay.
Okay.
Give a
Okay.
little bit
Okay.
of grace.
Uh-huh.
This person was a
Just a
teenager.
little bit. Just a little bit.
But
Just
I'm
a
gonna
little bit.
allow you not to give grace because I could give you examples of adults. Okay. When I was traveling, you know that I'm the world traveler. While I was traveling, I've been called a man multiple times for just having short hair. And so, like on site, just because my hair is shorter, they assume that I was a man. And I think that's again going back to texturism. Like, this is an acceptable style for a man, but not for a woman. Right. I've been told, I've tried to go into the bathroom and they stopped me because they thought that I was a man and told me to go to the men's bathroom. And those are adults.
What? Wow.
Those are
Wow.
adults. And so what I did
Oh my
one time, Dr. Kamani, was I opened my jacket so they could see the contour of my body to know I was a woman because I knew it had to be the hair, right? It had to be. There was nothing else. And that is what was the proof that allowed me to be able to go to the women's bathroom.
Wow, Dr. Maya. So, so these insults, right? So when you encounter this, right, you advocate for yourself, and it's kind of like a residue. Like, how does a residue impact you when you have to keep encountering these experiences? How does it impact you, right? You deal with it in a moment, but how does it impact you? What do you say to yourself and keep going? Well, can you share?
Yeah.
Because other Black women may encounter this, because I want Black women who may encounter this to be able to hear your story and be like, you know what, that happened to me and it sticks with me and I can't shake it, right? I want them to be able to hear from you. What do you do in the moment so it doesn't stick with you and you can't shake it? So, what do you do?
Yeah, that's really good. Sometimes I have to just have a phone call. Sometimes you just have to call a safe person to remind you who you are in the moment. I
Mhm,
can admit to you, I have not always been strong enough to be like, girl, you good onto this plane. Like, no. So
mhm,
sometimes I just needed to call somebody. I just needed to hear the
mhm.
things from them to know.
Elevation.
Yeah, like if you just need to do a call, if you need to do a
Yeah.
FaceTime, I think that
Yeah.
is completely okay because it is a form of racial violence,
It
right? This is
is.
verbal abuse. It's
It is.
very
It's
hard.
dehumanizing.
It's dehumanizing and it's from people that have power, right? Like they can have
Yeah.
the power to not allow you on this flight or to allow whatever. So I think it's sometimes I just have to do a call. Another
Mhm,
time is sometimes I would just go somewhere quiet by myself and like affirm myself. If I just need to cry
mhm,
right there, I just do that, do some breathing
mhm,
exercises to myself, and just remind
mhm,
myself a lot that this is global, that I'm not
mhm,
the only Black person that is facing this, that so
mhm,
many of us are dealing with this all of the time
mhm, mhm,
and that I'm not alone. And then sometimes it's like maybe journaling, just getting out how you feel. And
mhm,
sometimes you can write down what you would have said to that person if you could have said whatever you wanted.
mhm,
And
mhm,
that just gives you an opportunity to like kind of rethink the moment, kind of act in a different way, even though you can't, but on paper you could.
mhm. Exactly. Well, first, I just want to say, Dr. Maya, I appreciate your vulnerability and your honesty with this. And also, I know that you sharing this is helping other Black women, because just the fact that you're able to share that this has been your experience, other Black women go through the same thing, but they get stuck. They don't know what to do. But you're able to share with them just a range of different options, and just the humanity of, you know what, if you just need to cry, allowing yourself to connect to your own humanity and cry if that's what you need to do, but being able to share with people, women, about these are the things, these are your options to do in this situation, right? So, when we think about all the things that you've gone through and all the things you've done, right? And you've talked about ways that we could support Black girls with colorism healing, ways that we support Black women with colorism healing. What can we do in our communities, right? Because when we think about for us, and I just think about so much of what we're doing, so much of how we function as Black people, particularly Black people who are the descendants of enslaved people, so much of our functioning is very much impacted by the ramifications of slavery, right? So we think about post-traumatic slave syndrome. We still have not healed from slavery. So there's so much stuff that we're still operating at the divide and conquer that's still operating. And we are not fully aware of it, right? So colorism is one way. So can we talk about what are some of the ways as a community that we can address the divisive tactics of colorism as a community,
Yes.
right? Because my perception is once we're more aware of the historical part, because I wrote that, what did you say? That colorism is a daughter of racism? That was beautifully stated, right? So once we're more aware of our history, that colorism is a way to divide and conquer, I think that's one way to help us, right? But I think sometimes when we're actually in the moment, some of us are not aware of how we are subscribing to internalized oppression, right? We may know, like, historically what that might look like, but on an interpersonal level, we may be disconnected and have a lack of self awareness about how we are playing out the divide and conquer in our own behavior, maybe in the workplace or with other Black people. We may be totally disconnected from that, right? So, what are some of the ways you feel that as a community that we could be more aware of these tactics that divide and conquer us in relation to colorism?
Yeah. So, one thing that I forgot to mention is that you all should look at Dr. Sarah L. Webb's website. She does colorism healing. She has dedicated her entire career to try to help us heal from colorism. So, she gives so many tactics, so many examples of what we can do to heal from colorism. She also has a TED talk on colorism and how we can work through that. So, appreciate you focusing on what we can do as a entire community to do this. So
Is that
appreciate
correct? Did I say it right?
yes,
Okay.
yes,
Okay.
that is correct. And so, okay, so there are multiple things that we can do. Let's start with ourselves. We'll start small and we'll go big. So with
Okay.
ourselves, unlearning all of the stereotypes about colorism. We have so many on site. We see a person, we think certain things about them based on their skin tone, in the same way that we think certain things about people based on their racial group. So we
Mhm.
need to unlearn all of those things about colorism. We need to stop laughing and making fun of things that are colorist, right? So there are still some of us watching Martin thinking that is hilarious about how they disrespected Pam for being dark skinned. That is not funny. That is another thing, is that we have to stop laughing or thinking that it's okay when people say colorist things. We have to stop supporting music that also contributes to colorism. There's so many songs talking about Redbone still today. Dr. Kamani, still today, they're talking about red bone, they talking about light skin and how they look better because they are lighter skin. We need to stop supporting all of that. And we also need to be open when we see people of a certain skin tone. We've been taught certain things about that person, being open to having conversation, to getting to know that person besides what they look like. So it can go in both ways. You see a light skinned person and you're thinking, oh, this person is going to be cool. You see a dark skinned person and sometimes people are like, this person is going to be aggressive. This person is going to be mean. We got to throw all of that away and just look at the person as they are and listen to what they have to say and get to know them. So that's what we can do, like working on ourselves. In
Okay.
relationship with each other is number one, not to be dating based off skin tone. That is number one. It is not a preference, it is a bias. Okay, people are pretending it's a preference, but that is not the truth. It's a bias. So we've all been indoctrinated in certain ways to believe certain things. And when people say a preference, okay, a preference is going to be something like, I'll just compare it to ice cream, Dr. Kamani. I know it's silly, but I think that this will make sense. A preference. I have a preference for strawberry ice cream. If
Mhm.
we go to the store and they have no strawberry ice cream, I'm okay with eating cookies and cream. My preference was strawberry, but I don't mind eating cookies and cream. A
Mhm.
bias. I have a bias for strawberry ice cream. I go to the store, they have no strawberry. I'm not eating anything else in this store. We're going to drive around until we find strawberry ice cream. That is a bias, right? So that's the same in dating. If you say I have a preference for something, that's okay. But if you only date people that look a certain way, that's a bias, not a preference.
True.
So when we are dating people, to not hold on to biases about the person, to not mistreat people or to prefer people based on those preferences as well, and to recognize what the difference is between a preference in dating and between a bias. Also, in terms of friendships, people do the same thing in terms of friendships, right? We'll have groups of baddies, or people are like, they only want to hang around people that are attractive, and sometimes that lends people to like have friends that have similar skin tones to them, or not have friends of other skin tones, and we have to stop that and just be open to friendship as it is. If
Mhm.
you can, now this might be more about your work, Dr. Kamani. If you can, try not to be in organizations that uphold colorism, which you can recognize on the website when you see only light skinned people in certain positions and dark skinned people relegated to other positions. I have been in that type of situation where it's like the dark skinned people were like part time or not being paid what they were worth, and the light skinned
Mhm.
people were able to like have higher positions, to be like executives or things of that nature. So we need to watch out for that if we can not support things. I know that obviously we have to live our lives and work these jobs, but if we can not support places that are colorist, that would be important too. And
Mhm.
some of these places have taken a stance to not support certain types of things, and have shown it through practices, or again, you can just look at website and literally tell if they're about that life or if they are, deceiving us. But also thinking about that. So relationships, also family, the way that we talk to our family, making sure not to mistreat people because of skin tone or prefer people based off skin tone. So I think those are all things that we can do with ourselves and in relationship to each other. And then globally is a lot harder, a lot more work. Media is very strong and prevalent, but people have been calling out things now. They've been calling out shows that are colorist. They have
Mhm.
boycotted certain shows. They have decided they're not going to watch certain things, and that's really good.
Mhm.
Boycotting, stop supporting things, stop laughing at things, stop watching certain things. Also, supporting all people, like focusing on the characteristics, or focusing on the assets that people bring rather than focusing on attractiveness. We find that within politicians, people tend to vote for people that are attractive. That's also another problem. We need to focus on like who is the best candidate and not who is the most attractive candidate. And so all of these things I think can be helpful. And then a final piece is that when you are at home, because a lot of
Mhm.
this starts when you're at home, is to
Mhm.
have representations of Black people of all skin tones,
Mhm.
all skin tones. Like
Mhm.
that is a piece that is really missing, is
Mhm.
that we have to work a little bit harder to be able to find these representations. But
Mhm.
when we do, we need to hold on to them. We need to look at them. We need to watch them. We need to pay attention to them. There also is the documentary of Dark Girls and Light Girls. Have you
Yeah.
heard of that
Mhm.
documentary?
Yeah,
Both
ourselves.
of
Yeah.
those. So educating ourselves on colorism too, I think will help for the liberation. Knowledge is power.
I agree. I agree. I was thinking about something, Dr. Maya, because I've heard Black women talk about this, that it seems that the more extreme, or the more that you are on the continuum in terms of skin color, the more you are targeted, right? So the darker you are or the lighter you are, you're more targeted. But often, like if you're in the middle, then you're less targeted, right? So I've heard of Black women talk about like if they're really light, they get targeted in terms of Black people saying that, oh, you think you're better, or oh, are you mixed, or oh, you think you're white. And then I hear Black women who are on the other continuum in terms of all the negative stereotypes about being dark skinned. So, can we talk about that? Like, it seems like the continuums, like, if you're at the either end of the continuum, it seems like there is this tendency to get negative attention as well.
This you have said the theme of what my dissertation was about. I forgot the theme. You brought up the theme, and I
Okay.
appreciate you for it. This is it. So, if you are on the extremes, if you are light skinned or if you are dark skinned and perceived, we're going to say, Dr. Kamani, perceived as light or dark skin, obviously, because we know these
Mhm.
things are not fixed, then you are going to
Right.
receive backlash in some way. Exactly what you
Yeah.
said. It can be positive or negative stereotypes on both ends, because there can be a fetishization, for example, for dark skin. It's not, always negative, but who wants to be fetishized, obviously. So,
Right.
yes, if you're on the extremes, light skin or dark skin, going to be receiving stereotypes. In the middle, it tends to get lost. It tends to get lost. People in the middle sometimes are like, some people see me as darker skin, some people see me as lighter skin. It depends on the day, it depends on the person. My sister, I will throw her in here, is a medium skin tone, and she says she has never heard a negative thing about her skin tone. I said, wow, could I live that life, sis? Please. Right. So that's
Wow.
an example. And then the theme that you brought for my dissertation that I forgot is, the title of my dissertation is I'm not dark, I'm not light, I'm medium skin tone, because I found that everyone wanted to be medium skin tone. Even people that were light, even people that were dark wanted to be medium, because the research shows that medium skin tone is the most protected from backlash.
That is fascinating. That is fascinating, right? And that is fascinating. It is. And what's so sad is that, these issues of colorism, and I saw it in the chat as well, generation from generation to generation, it's the same kind of dynamic that keeps playing out. Like when I hear young kids still saying the same things about different skin color, I'm like, what? Are we still doing this? But it keeps happening. And can we talk a little bit more? Because you made reference to this, but can we talk about it a little bit more before we read the community chat about some of the prejudgments? Because my dissertation dealt with the prejudgment process for Black women, racial social comparison jealousy. Skin color was one of the issues, but can we talk about some of the prejudgments for the skin color, like based on the continuum? So, what are some of the prejudgments for lighter skin, and what are some of the prejudgments for darker skin? Because again, like you just said, right, those who are in the middle, they don't really get right. That's why most people want to be considered medium brown, because medium brown people have not received much of the, I guess, negative attention within our community. Right now, Black is Black, right? So we know that as Black people, we're going to get negative attention as Black people, right? But within our community, in terms of negative attention for our skin tone, usually those who are perceived as medium brown don't get that other colorism negative attention, right? But can we talk a little bit about the prejudgments that we often hear, or the perceived skin color, based on perceived skin color on either continuum, right? So, what do we hear in terms of prejudgments for those perceived to be at the lighter end and those perceived to be at the darker end? What are some of the prejudgments that we hear?
Yeah, yeah. And just to go off of what you just said, I have heard that medium skin tone often feels invisible. So, like, that's the negative piece for them. It's like there was a
Ah,
time on social media where it was like team light skin, team dark skin, and medium skin tone people were like, here we go again. You never include us, right? Even though we don't have to face backlash, we also are not seen. So, that is just a piece of negativity. And my
mhm.
sister has said, I have not experienced colorism to her knowledge, but I have experienced racism. So to going back to your point, we're not saying that
Mhm.
medium skin tone are having a great time. It's
Right,
just that colorism may not be a major issue for them. It might be more so racism.
right.
Okay, so in terms of some of the stereotypes,
The perceived uh yeah, the stereotypes, the perceived prejudgments, right? For at both ends of the continuum, right? And
so
I'm saying that because I want us to kind of zero in on that, because what I'm concerned about for us as Black people is that we make prejudgments about one another, which might interfere in our ability to really see one another, right? So if you make a prejudgment about somebody, that will block you from your ability to ever get to know that person, because you've already prejudged that person and you've already kind of written them off, right?
that's a good
So,
point.
what are some of the prejudgments that you have heard have been made based upon the colorism continuum?
Yeah, that's a good point. So prejudgments in terms of dark skin, like harder working, that they could be more susceptible to violence and it's like not a big deal, kind of like a stereotype of just Black people in general, that we can take pain more, where they
Mhm.
feel like light skinned people bruise easily or there would be evidence of this, so like maybe there's more of a thought in terms of not abusing them in the same way you would someone darker skin. I know that's like really hurtful to say and hear. Also, in terms of sexuality, a person that might be more sexual might be a person of darker skin tone, masculinized. A lot of dark skinned women are seen as more masculine than light skinned women. And just in general, I had told you too about like the fetishization of like whatever mystery or like exotic thing that people are thinking, they might associate that with a darker skin tone woman more so than they would someone of lighter skin. And then in terms of lighter skin people being like more intelligent, more kind, more open, more willing to have conversations, more hardworking, like in a similar way as dark skin, but hardworking for dark skin is like physical labor, and for lighter skinned people it's like more emotional. So this is also a stereotype that light skinned men get a lot, is that they are more emotional than darker skinned men, things of that nature. And yeah, just like a proximity to whiteness, so light skinned people are seen like in a positive way, in the same way that we might associate things with white people, we might associate that with a light skinned person. And so often people in the Black community might look to a light skinned person as like having more opportunity, education, um, privilege than people of darker skin tone in the community. And I also wanted to ask too, Dr. Kamani, before we get to the questions in the chat, I
Mhm.
just wanted to know how you identify in terms of skin tone and what was your experience of colorism, if you had that. Doesn't have to be long. I was just curious, and I have totally forgot in all of this time to ask you about that.
Good question. So interesting, because there were different parts that I wanted to kind of jump in and tell my own experience. I was like, oh, I'm gonna pull back because sometimes I do that. People are like, you talk too much about your own experience. Okay, so thank you for inviting me to share. Okay, so I've been told that that I am perceived as being light complexion, right? And so I understand that people perceive me in that certain way, and I understand that I have received certain privileges based upon how I'm perceived, right? I also understand that people have perceived that people have projected onto me that that I think that I'm better than them, or that that I'm better, right? And I have done things, and I think in some ways to overcompensate. And I think part of mm, a challenge that I had in that previous toxic job was that that was part of a problem that I had, was that I overcompensated in certain situations with other Black women because I was trying to show that I am not better than anybody else. I'm like everybody else, right? So even when certain Black women, not all Black women in the toxic job, but when certain Black women in the toxic job did things that um, I really maybe could have used better discernment with, in terms of seeing they were not trustworthy, it was more important to me to let them know that uh, that I did not want to be perceived as better than them, right? So that overrode my discernment, right? And so you said that identity issue got in the way, and I got me in a situation, right? So sometimes we are so invested in acceptance of other people, particularly when we're so invested in wanting to be accepted from everybody, that sometimes we don't recognize that people who might look like us, so all skin folk and kinfolk, we don't recognize when people might be trying to hurt us because we're so invested in trying to be with everybody, even though we don't recognize that not everybody's there for us, right? So that was something that I learned after I left that toxic job, right? Something else that I learned in relation to skin color issues was growing up, um, you know, all my friends were all different skin colors, right? But I didn't see myself as light complexion, but people treated me like that, or they would like identify me as that, right? And so I wanted to be darker, right? And so it was always uncomfortable for me growing up to be seen as lighter complexion, right? So it's interesting that we're having this conversation. You asked me that because for me growing up, I did want to be darker, right? So it's just interesting just to hear and to have this conversation, and just to be able to just have an honest reflection about skin color and how that affects all of us, and just to think about how does it show up for us as children, but also how does it show up for us as adults. And just for me to even have that reflection of, you know what, because of that, I maybe put my guard down in some ways that I could have protected myself from some people who were not really looking out for me in the workplace. But because I wanted to, show them that I was, down for all of us, but they were not down for me, right? But, again, lesson learned. And I'm sharing this with you and I'm sharing this with everybody because part of what I want to do on this channel is to release, everything I've gone through. Cause I'm like, I want to get this stuff out of my system. But my hope is that by me being transparent, just like you've been very transparent, Dr. Maya, and being very vulnerable, is that my hope is that by me sharing what I've gone through, that it's hopefully helping somebody else. So maybe somebody else who's in this situation, they use better discernment, so that they don't make the same mistakes that I did. So I appreciate you asking that question.
Thank you for sharing that. I want to validate what you said. And I also want to let you know that because of this, people questioning people's identity, who they perceive to be light, people have wanted to be darker skin, like you mentioned. That is very common. And also to date people that are darker to kind of like prove their authenticity in terms of blackness. So that is completely understandable, valid, and is a real concern that people have to deal with.
Yes, 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 yes. And what's so fascinating too, Dr. Maya, is that we all have a story, right? We all have a story and we don't know until we ask one another. So I appreciate that you asked. I
Of
appreciate that
course.
you asked. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to read the community chat, everybody, and then we're going to start winding down. Okay, so we talked about relationships. Let's see. In high school, a friend's mother told her she had to be smart because she was dark skinned and not pretty. Oh, that's sometimes our families can say the most hurtful things to us, right? And I
And
think part
actually,
of what,
yeah.
go on, Dr. Maya. Yeah,
Oh, okay. Just really quickly, I just wanted to say
yeah.
actually, Oprah family said that they were like, "You are not pretty, so you have to be smart." Please, Dr. Kamadi, please continue.
Ooh. No, I was going to say when you talked about healing, that we have to be very mindful of what we say to girls or boys, right? We have to just be very mindful of the language that we use, right? I always rebelled against such behavior. True. Speaking to your about your reactions, could be made the argument that those people are triggered and suffering from a chemical imbalance that makes them feel unsafe. I'm not sure where we were when we talked about that. I should have gotten to that point earlier. I'm sorry about that. My grandma always told me never date a light skinned man because he'll always think he's prettier than you. We from New Orleans. Ooh, okay. That's horrendous. It's always extremely hurtful and demoralizing from a youth. How can we allow people to have personal ideals but celebrate individualism? It hurts when men only like me because I'm light skinned. They never want to truly get to know me. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm so sorry for anyone else experiencing colorism. So we talked about Black girls, tears. Hi, Dr. Maya, Dr. Kamani, Dr. Pam here. Hello. Colorism failed to elect the right Black leaders. European race used colorism in Brazil, South Africa, etc., to create buffer class. The buffer groups end up being alienated and self-hating. Melanin is a genetic adaptation that leads to survival of species. Melanin manages vitamin D production and protects us against UV light. I always tell my Black girl elementary school students that they are beautiful and smart. I love that. Okay, she's talking about the girl who asked you, the biracial girl asked you about getting out the pool. Was the mother white? Was the mom white? They're just
The mom is
asking.
white. The mom is white.
Okay. You're right. Okay. All right. She learned it from her parents. Okay. Oh, Dr. Maya, that's a deep situation. This conversation is very necessary. Due to economics, European race have done a number on the planet. Yeah, that was intentional. In the past, Black slaves used to dance and sing their stress away. A hairdresser in New Jersey, when I was a teenager, said loudly, "Wow, your hair's nappy." I was like, what? What in the? Yeah, that's messed up. And also the term nappy, right? And how we use it. We got to, yeah, yeah. Okay. Should have told her Big Mama too has nappy hair all over, including in places that cannot be seen. Okay. I'm just going to get it. Okay. Even the urge to center yourself in combos where the darker skinned women are sharing their experiences, say, tell it to the men. The impact causes black weathering. Yes, I'm 71 years old and deeply saddened to see that this is still a big deal in 2025. I am as well. I am as well. And my hope is that by us having continual conversations about this, that we really get to the root of this and that we don't continue to have this divisive issue continuing to happen. I guess that being a baby boomer who came to age in the say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud era partially explains my sadness, and I have seen the documentaries. Facts. It seems that many black men think colorism directed towards black women is hilarious. Yeah, it's very disturbing. Very disturbing. Medium skin tones are like Gen X of the generations. You only hear about the boomers and millennials. That's true. That's true, Colette. That's true. Good way to frame this. I agree. I've been told I'm light skinned. I do not think I'm light skinned. Can we talk about? Oh, that's an interesting comment. Can we talk about color dysmorphia? I've never heard about that. Dr. Maya, can we speak to that? Color dysmorphia.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, in terms of like the person feeling like that isn't the skin tone,
Yeah, so people have told her she's light skinned, but she doesn't think she's light skinned.
Yeah, so that's why we had said like perceived skin tone, because obviously, depending on the person, and the research has shown that based on the person's skin tone is how they see other people's skin tone. So that should let you know that it's going to be subjective. Based on how you see the world, is what people will call you. And maybe similar to what you said, Dr. Kamani, about how people kept calling you a certain thing, but you didn't feel like that was what you wanted to be. It
Mhm.
is absolutely true. I have talked to people and they have said to me, like, Maya, I don't think you're dark skin. I think that you're medium skin tone. And I'm like, I also thought that I was medium skin tone, but from being called dark skin tone so much, I have embraced being called dark skin. So I think that this actually could be a thing that all of us feel like at some point. Maybe it's like somebody called us a skin tone that's like not how we would identify ourselves at all, kind of if they called us the wrong name. It's just like trying to figure that out. But what we can say is, similarly to how so many people like call people beautiful, or so many people call people ugly, like if enough people call you that, a
Mhm.
certain skin tone, then the society has deemed you that skin tone, even if you view yourself in a different way. In the same way that, like with our pronouns, right, the society might call us a specific pronoun or see us in a specific way that we don't see ourselves. And I think that is true when it comes to skin tone as well.
Mhm.
So recognizing how you feel about your skin tone versus how the society thinks about your skin tone, and reconciling that, figuring out what that means for you. So for me, I'm like, I will call myself medium, but the society is calling me dark skin tone. So I am going to have to learn how to address the world in a way where people see me as dark skin tone.
Good point.
Or
Okay.
maybe
I
for
believe
someone,
dolls
yeah, I was just going to say,
I
well,
believe I'm sorry, go on. I'm sorry,
it's
Dr. Maya.
okay. No worries. I was going to say, and for you, like you had to realize that you were going to get privileges even if you didn't feel that way. That's all I was going to say.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I believe dolls matter. I only bought my girls black dolls, including Barbies. Period. At 28, my oldest told me she didn't realize the original Barbie wasn't black. I love it. We need to stop playing dozens. I've always hated this horribly damaging game. Me too. Me too. Before my children, I was the only lighter skinned person on my maternal side. I was always put down to keep me in my place because I thought I was better than them, which was never it. Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah. So the sense of putting in your place, and that's the thing too. That's something that many of us experience in the workplace too. So you may experience it in your family and then also in the job too. I think many of us as Black people experience that in the workplace when we're perceived as being too uppity, right, in the workplace, and then people put us in our place. Oh, listen to this. I still sense the pain in Dr. Maya's voice. Thank you for this transparent conversation. Yes, thank you so much. I made up the term, yeah, color dysmorphia. Yes, that was a good term. I love the term color dysmorphia. It captures some necessary aspects of the situation. It's a good term. I think it's a rolling skin tone scale where one falls on the scale depends on who is doing the measuring. I agree. I agree. Oh, I never thought about that about you, Dr. Kamani. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, Cynthia. Thank you so much. So, as we're winding down, Dr. Maya, can you please share with the audience? Oh, wait. Dr. Maya, how are you able to complete your dissertation while experiencing your selected topic at the same time?
This is a great question. I had to pause from that dissertation so much. I was so angry with her. I'm like, this is annoying me. Like, it's supposed to be validating and feel the things, but it's just too much. It like I learned even more stereotypes than I wanted to know. And so sometimes, like, it's great to be educated, Dr. Kamani, but sometimes it's just like too much and you just have to take a break. You have to protect yourself. I had to do that constantly. I had to set that down multiple times. And for the person that mentioned still hearing the pain in my voice, yes, because I was like, okay, we finally reached a point, and then still I'm still here. So that's why I have just decided it's a lifelong journey. But I think that having the dissertation out there, which is on the internet, if you all just look up my name, you can find it, will help me to continue to heal from this. So, got to take a break sometimes.
Yes, indeed. And I see this is a very courageous conversation. Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much. Wow. Yes, I do know Colette. While you're asking this question, you have my permission to share. Yes, my dear friend Colette Elizabeth, she is going to be writing her dissertation, which I want to support you with, my friend. So she said this is inspirational for her. Being educated is so tedious. Like, can I just watch a movie without my brain? I hear you, sis. I hear you. Okay. So, Dr. Maya, can you please share about your YouTube channel? What is your YouTube channel about, and what is the name of it?
Okay, so my YouTube channel is called Fly Like Me PhD, and I focus on Black women trying to encourage them to move or live abroad. So if you're interested in that, please check out my channel. We have a banking community, we have really good discussions. I do country scouting in different countries so that you don't have to. And you can just decide if you want to move there, if you want to travel there based off my videos, and I do pros and cons of that. I also do lives on my channel. We talk about everything Black. And most important, we want the liberation of all Black people and we want to dismantle anti Blackness.
That's right. I love it. So follow Dr. Maya's channel, her YouTube channel. And I want to thank Dr. Maya again for being my guest today and talking about this very, very important, needed conversation. And I want to thank Dr. Maya for her vulnerability and sharing that beautiful, touching poem with us. I also want to share with everyone here again that our virtual book club is coming up September 25th. This is our first virtual book club for our community. So our butterfly YouTube community for Black women. So if you want to be a part of the virtual book club, which is the Black Professional's Guide, How to Navigate White Privilege in the Workplace, coming up September 25th. If you want to be a part of the virtual book club with the author will be there. You need to be a part of the community. So you can be a part of the community by going into my description section, click the link to join the community. You will get information about the Zoom once you join the community. Okay. So if you want to be a part of the virtual book club, so that's part of the perks in addition to the check-ins that we will have and the members only lives. You need to be a part of the community. And again, everyone, thank you so much for joining. Please give this video a thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do so. Turn the notification bell so you know when I go live. And please share this video with at least 2 other Black women. Okay, I will see you later. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.